The period from 600 to 1450 is often called the post-classical period. Many changes occurred in government, economy, and territory in the countries of the world. During this period, there were many powerful governments. After the fall of the Roman Empire in 476 CE, the Byzantine Empire flourished. Their capital was in Constantinople, and they had a continuous conflict with the Muslim Caliphate nearby that eventually led to its fall. Muslim Caliphate were different groups of Muslims that separated themselves into regional states. The Umayyad and Abbasid Caliphate controlled most of the Islamic Empire. The Umayyad Empire controlled the region known as Spain until its peak in the 11th century. After that, it remained an important presence there until the late 15th century. Spain was stable and wealthy under the Umayyad Caliphate. Seeing as Spain was part of the Umayyad Empire, it was kept from the discord in Europe during the Middle Ages. In the Abbasid Caliphate, Baghdad was one of the world's most diverse cities at the time. The Abbasid had Persians serving in their government and adopted many parts of Persian culture. The Abbasid era is often referred to as the Golden Age. Islam itself had spread rapidly via trade from Southeast Asia across North Africa to Spain and into northern India and Central Asia. Dar al-Islam, meaning Islam is everywhere, united this region. Trade between Muslim and Christian empires was occurring more than ever. The trans-Sahara trade routes flourished, bringing goods, people, and faith across North Africa. Christianity and Islam diffused all across the region. Buddhism would spread throughout mostly China and India. Also during this time, the Crusades were occurring. The Christian military conquest to recapture the Holy Land led to a large rivalry with Islam and eventually the Renaissance. In Europe, the Black Death or bubonic plague caused 1/3 of the population of the Western Europe to perish. Also in Europe, ideas like coerced labor became popular. Coerced labor is government-enforced labor or indentured servants. Feudalism was a major form of rule in Europe at the time as well as in Japan. The Mongols invaded most parts of Russia, Southwest Asia, and South China at this time. They were called the Agents of Change or Unstoppable Tide of Horror, and of course, The Exception by John Green. They can even be credited with creating Russia or at least influencing them to become an independent country. The Russians called the Mongols the Golden Horde. Their leader, Genghis Khan, was a ruthless leader and is said to have the most ancestors ever. The Mongols controlled the largest empire the world has ever seen. They allowed freedom of religion in all areas that they controlled. China at this time was thriving under the Tang and Song dynasties. They had the largest population in the world, most advanced technology, and led the world in manufacturing. Their cities were seen as the greatest and most sophisticated in the world. This led to the Sinification of Chinese-ification of the countries around China, which essentially meant that they copied them socially, politically, and economically. Japan largely volunteered to the Sinification. Chinese writing, bureaucracy, and belief system was adopted. Buddhism and Confucianism were both borrowed from China. Patriarchy or a male-dominant society was a major theme in this era. But China was an exception to this by having a female leader in the Tang dynasty. The Ming dynasty of China was characterized by Zheng He, or the explorer that traveled across the Indian Ocean and to Southeast Asia. In Mesoamerica, the Mayan and Aztec empires dominated Central and Southern America. The Aztec city Tenochtitlan and Mayan city Tikal were the most advanced places in the Western world. The discovery of the New World in 1492 would mark the end of this era